Miscellaneous articles by Norbie. What is in your hand? God had appeared to Moses as he was shepherding the flock of his father-in-law Jethro in the wilderness. He had spelled out the commission he had for Moses. God had chosen Moses to deliver his people from the slavery of Egypt and to lead them into the Promised Land, a land promised years before to Abraham. It is an awesome task, and Moses was reluctant. 40 years before, he had impulsively come to the aid of a Hebrew slave who was being beaten by a taskmaster. Then he fled for his life when he realized it was known that he had killed the Egyptian. Now the impulsive self-confidence of youth is gone. Then Moses answered and said, "But suppose they will not believe me or listen to my voice, suppose they say, 'The Lord has not appeared to you.'" Exodus 4 verse 1 NKJ. It is a reasonable question. His earlier attempt to deliver one of them was rejected and he was scorned. Moses did not relish a future rejection by his brethren. How could he convince them that God had really called him? The Lord asked him, "What is in your hand?" It was a common shepherd's staff. God commanded him to cast it to the ground. Moses complied, and it became a writhing serpent as it hit the ground. He instinctively ran from it. But God commanded him to pick it up by the tail. Instantly it became the familiar staff he used daily. It was an amazing miracle, but God gave him 2 other signs to convince the people. Moses was told to put his hand into his bosom. When he pulled it out, it was leprous, a fearful sight. When he put it back into his bosom, it became well and healthy once again. God gave him a 3rd sign if they were still unconvinced. He was to take water from the Nile River and pour it on the ground. It would turn to blood. These 3 miracles should be convincing to them. But Moses doubted his ability to lead the people. Although he had the best education that Egypt could offer, 40 years in the solitude of the desert had not sharpened his oratorical skills. God promised to be his mouth. When Moses persisted in making excuses, God said he would send him Aaron to speak for him. God calls each of us to serve him. We are all gifted differently. Having then gifts differing according to the grace that is given to us, let us use them. Romans 12 verse 6. What is in your hand? What gifts do you have? Use them, stop making excuses. Be thankful for the gifts God has given you. But be realistic and do not think more highly of yourself than you ought to think, Romans 12 verse 3. And then God wants no excuses. One day we will all stand before the Lord and he will ask us, "What did you do with the gifts, the talents, I entrusted to you?" May we hear him say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Donald L. Norbie, March 29, 2006.